Hello everyone and welcome once again to Randomised Gaming's YouTube channel. I am once again your host for this video, the editor of Randomised Gaming, Random Gamer Riven. Now today's rather lengthy video is actually a look at the first 2 hours of Mystaria, which is I believe how it's pronounced, although you could pronounce it Mystaria, the Realms of Lore. And this was a tactical RPG made by Sega and Micro Cabin. So the reason we've actually recorded about 2 hours of gameplay is because RPGs can be a bit of a pain to actually capture footage for, because usually if you capture the first half hour you usually get some cutscenes and little else. Or in this case, in a tactical RPG, you literally have some very long-sided battles. Each battle in this takes roughly around 30 minutes, and we wanted footage from a couple of battles to use in another video. We've already done the shortened version of this gameplay video if you want to watch that, if you don't want to sit through, but I thought we'd give you an introduction to those who actually want to see sort of the opening section to Mystaria. Now, as much as I love RPGs, we're still very much a bit hit and miss on the channel about how much to cover them, because unfortunately in order to cover an RPG fully, you're looking at usually 25 plus hours of recording time, if not 50, 60, 70. Hell, my Final Fantasy 12 playthrough went into about 200 plus hours of gameplay, so yeah, had I videoed that we would be here forever and a day literally uploading Final Fantasy 12 videos. Now, Mystaria is a tactical RPG, and it's very much in the same vein as Shining Force and Fire Emblem. This opening battle you see here introduces us to 7 of the key opening characters and one of the central villains. And that is Lord Bane, who is a particularly nasty villain, as you'll see in the dialogue to follow. And these opening couple of battles are actually pretty set. In fact, this very first battle only lasts 2 rounds before Lord Bane casts a spell, and then we move to the next battle. So this battle really is more sort of a scenic, just familiarise tutorial thing. It really is literally get used to the movement controls. It's actually quite subtly done in that respect. The only other thing it does is let you, of course, name your characters, as you're seeing here. Now, I'm not going to commentate across the whole of the video. What I am going to do is, if you jump to the start of any of the main battle sections, I will do a quick commentation and annotate, and I'll do one at the village as well, just to give you a rough explanation of how things work. So after that brief, and I do mean brief, introductory battle, we get taken to the first major battle. And as you can see here, Aragon and Feral have managed to save, brackets, capture the ninja Rakaiko, who rapidly decides to change sides, having watched Lord Bane try and burn half his troops to death. Now, this battle in the forest is the first battle where you actually have control of all the main heroes, basically. Rakaiko, although he was only briefly in the previous battle, has now decided to join Aragon, having watched Lord Bane burn his troops alive, and of course, as I mentioned in the dialogue, he was basically saved by Feral. So this is the first battle where you really get to grips with the 5 character classes that by default you have. So you have the ninja, who's quite an attacking one with specialist moves. You have Aragon, who's a hero who does both good combat and's got good magic. We have Sakura, I think that's how you pronounce her name, who's basically the healer. She's also got attacking offensive spells as you level her up. We also have Feral, he's basically the Beastman warrior. He is an absolute powerhouse, and over time you get some really strong attacking techniques. And then we have Hector, who is the archer and who can attack at range. So the moves for each character in Mystaria are called techniques, and you earn techniques as you perform actions in a battle. So if you do attacking actions, you'll likely gain a new attack technique. If you perform magic, you'll likely gain a new magic technique. And if you do defensive techniques, you'll then learn new defensive techniques. And once one character's learned a technique, all the other characters that can use it will also then automatically learn that technique. So that's actually quite a nice system, and you'll see a few new moves being unlocked during the course of this battle and the other battles in this video. What I will point out is that you can't always initially equip a technique once you've learned it. Sometimes you'll need to level up. And what's interesting about the level up system in this is that it's not accrued individually per character like Shining Force and Fire Emblem. It's actually accrued per a group. So basically, every enemy you kill in the group adds basically to a experience pool, and at the end of the battle all the characters are awarded experience from that pool. However, the only caveat is that any character that dies doesn't get experience from characters that were killed while they were dead in battle. Unlike Fire Emblem, characters can die, you can also resuscitate them during battle with a Raise the Dead spell, which you'll actually see in the third battle in this video, and they'll also automatically come back to life at the end of any battle. So if Fury is not really killed, they're just sort of knocked out or knocked unconscious. Now, as you'll see in this opening battle, this one actually uses a reinforcement system, much that's later used in Shining Force 3 actually. But basically this battle tries to herd the player to move quickly through the forest, because as you start clearing the initial troops, endless reinforcements start spawning from a spot on the left side of the map. There's a slight funny section in that the AI is not particularly good at pathfinding if you watch this video in its entirety, and the reinforcements, when we're moving to the top left side of the map, they try to follow you and they just end up walking into the side of the wall basically, which is quite amusing. Interestingly, if you're an experienced player, you can deliberately farm those reinforcements for additional techniques and experience. It's just getting to know how each character plays in order to do that, but once you can, it's possible to basically stand out of their initial attack range and just go in there, quickly kill the reinforcements and then run out again. It's quite a good tactic if you want to earn some XP as well. This battle is largely fairly straightforward. There's a slight twist at the end in that there are a few additional hidden reinforcements that you don't expect, and once you finish this section you'll move on to a boss battle, and I'll talk about the boss battle when we get there in the video. So for now I'll just let this early combat section play out and let you get to grips with how the game works. So this is the first boss battle in Mystaria. I say boss battle loosely. It is against Jazar, who is Raiko's master, and as you can probably guess, it's actually a completely and utterly unwinnable fight. You are going to lose this fight. It's not scripted and it's not a cutscene, so you do have control, but you're still going to lose. He will kill each of your characters in a single hit. You just cannot damage him if you attack him. You can, however, kill one of the assassins if you get lucky enough, and they give you a hell of a lot of XP if you're able to do so. Had I concentrated solely on one of the assassins, I might have just beaten him. You'll notice that I got very lucky and Aragorn managed to dodge all the initial wave of attacks set against him. But of course in the second round they all got literally wiped out. But it is possible to take out one of the assassins. You cannot beat Jazar, you will be defeated in this battle. If you can beat one of the assassins, so don't bother trying to strike Jazar at all because he will take no damage at all, but you can actually do enough damage to beat one of the assassins. You'll get a nice experience boost from this battle, and if you get extremely lucky you might even be able to take them both out. So as you can see from the dialogue in this prison section as Lord Bane is chatting to us, it actually begins to reveal some of the background of the characters. Ferrell does have quite an important history of Lord Bane, as you can see, and of course Lord Bane is made to look all nasty and evil by informing everyone he's going to have them basically tortured to death over the next few nights. But fortunately, as any good games designer knows, we can't allow that to happen to the main heroes, else we wouldn't have a game. And sure enough, we are promptly rescued by, and let's hope I get these pronunciations right because they are right tongue twister names, Alethea and Cat's High, who is the Birdman. Alethea is an archer and Cat's High is a ninja like Raiko, but the difference is he can fly, although on the downside he is vastly weaker than Raiko, and I remember he took an awful lot of time to really get to a decent level. So this next battle introduces a couple of new mechanics, notably the treasure chest ones. You can now start grabbing treasure chests. And yes, players of Shining Force will recognise an awful lot of mechanics here, same with Fire Emblem. The big difference between Fire Emblem and Shining Force is that you actually have a huge range of moves per characters. Shining Force and Fire Emblem have like a preset move set where you only have like one attack of the sword and magic book, etc. This game actually has some of the most in-depth combat I've seen for a tactical RPG. In fact, far more in-depth than a lot of the other ones, because you do get, each character does have their own individual and unique moves. Now, this mission you have to be slightly careful of. You don't want to rush too far ahead and get swarmed by the knights, but largely it's a case of just take it slow and proceed. You will see at the end of the battle, you can try to go one way and then Jazar turns up again, so you then immediately have to try and escape the dungeon via one of the doors, and you have to try and open one of the doors about 3 times in order to get it to open. Of course, at this point I should point out, Jazar will kill you this time round if you take too long, so as soon as that happens you want to get 2 people, as I do, on the door trying to open it as quickly as possible, because if Jazar catches you, your team is going to be wiped out. And certainly do make sure to pick up the treasure chest in the lower left cell as well. There are a number of other chests you'll see around this battle. Indeed, I did try to see if I could open some of the doors, but you can't get a lot of the treasure chests shown in this battle till much later when you return back to the Queensland Castle. Okay, so here we are on the world map, and as you can see, this is where you can start to explore the world of the game. Admittedly, at this point in the story, you are very restricted because they want you to do the mountain before the game opens up. In fact, aside from visiting Queensland Village, you can go nowhere else, as everywhere tells you we can't go here, here or here. You need to go to the mountain to talk to the wise man. Now, once you do that, you will then be able to explore the majority of the game. And unlike most RPGs, which are usually, I jokingly call linear quest adventures, because you literally follow a preset path most of the time, in fact even most main RPGs, but this one opens up and you can actually recruit the various characters that you need to follow the storyline in any particular order, so you can go to the different locations. It does all, once you've recruited all the characters, then form back to a straight narrow path at the end, but for the large part of Mystaria you have quite a free roaming element, as some of the characters are quite time consuming to actually recruit. Now, graphically, I will say the game is not the best looking one. In fact, even for a 95 game, the pre-renders in it were not particularly good. When you look at Donkey Kong Country on the SNES, that looks vastly better than this, and Mystaria's character animation is not great, but the gameplay shines through, and it also has a great soundtrack as well. So after I've done all the menu stuff, I'm going to quickly nip into town. In town, you'll see that you basically can visit one of 6 buildings. The towns do look a bit higgledy-piggledy, I have to admit, in this one. They're literally like weird one-street things. You'll also be able to read a notice board at the back that gives you very helpful information. In fact, I recall you need to read at least one of them notice boards to actually recruit one of the characters. But there's your shops, and there's also information. You can talk to civilians, and you can go to the barkeeper and ask for various information as well. One last thing I'm quickly going to mention that I think a lot of people should be aware of. If you are going to play Mystaria, you ideally want to recruit the character Galford first. Galford is a thief, and the reason you want to recruit him first is that there are a number of secret techniques that can only be obtained via Galford's steal ability. Once you steal them from a monster that has them, any character in your team will then unlock them. Now, as Galford is the only character to have that ability, it's worth getting it as quickly as possible because you don't want to miss losing any of this technique. There's actually about 30 secret techniques in total, and some of them are really powerful, so that's certainly worth doing if you are serious about playing through the game. Aim to get Galford first before any of the other characters. But as a result of that, you will find he's pretty much a mainstay party member, as you will be stealing techniques left, right and centre. So here we are up on the mountain, and we've come to speak to the wise man, and we've now got to fight our way through a horde of enemies on the mountain. This is probably the first battle where I would say if you play it badly you will get slaughtered. The first 2 battles and first 3 battles really are a tutorial to break you into the game. This is the first battle where if you start separating your team out or making bad moves, you will lose a few team members. I actually lost 2 team members in this battle. Overall it was a good performance, and basically my best advice is to stick together, but don't group up so close that you can be hit with range attacks. What you want to do is basically form your characters almost like in an X formation, but basically in a way so that the enemies can't swarm a character, because if 3 or more troops can get around a single character, you're likely to lose that character in a single turn. You can actually hit the boulders as I recall, but I couldn't remember if it was this battle or a later one. I think I should have used the punch ability. You basically could hit the rocks and they would sort of roll along. It's definitely a feature used in later battles. For this battle you're going to start to see some of the more advanced technique moves, and this is where the combat in Mystaria the Realms of Law really differentiates itself from Shining Force and Fire Emblem. In Shining Force you can group attack with magic combat, with basically standard sword combat. The same with Fire Emblem, you're pretty much doing one-on-one combat with retaliatory, you just pick a target and attack. Mystaria Realms of Law mixes that up spectacularly in that you can actually mass attack large groups of enemies using the right techniques. So the archers have a technique that you'll see later on in this battle called straight shot that enables you to shoot an arrow through about 3 or 4 enemies, and Feral has a spin spear attack that enables him to do a 360 whirl that will attack 4 enemies if he's surrounded. A very, very helpful attack. Now these type of attacks don't tend to be in Shining Force and Fire Emblem, and this makes Mystaria very different combat wise because it enables you to group attack at once if you know you can defeat the enemies. However, the caveat is you're not the only one with mass groups attacks. Yes, many of the monsters and the larger boss enemies do carry retaliatory group attacks as well. So positioning your troops in every battle, both against the enemy for offense and defense, is vital, as I have seen the odd attack take out 3 or 4 of my own team in one go. Likewise, position your troops correctly and you can wipe out 4 or 5 enemies in 2, maybe 3 attacks. It does in the end make for some very interesting but challenging combat, and I find this one far more tactically thinking than both Shining Force and the Fire Emblem game. Overall, this is the first real challenge for the players, and once you've actually cleared this mission, the game completely opens up as you're able to fully explore the world of Mystaria. And you can recruit any of the additional 5 characters in any order you see fit. However, some of the missions when you explore the world map require much higher levels than others, so it's a good idea to sort of look at the different missions you can do and decide which one you feel comfortable doing. A particularly nasty one is one where you have to explore the Wizard's Tower, as I remember that one you required specific weapons in order to hurt the enemies, so just sending a low level party into that battle was extremely difficult without the right equipment. And one of the other cool factors is when you've actually recruited the 12 characters, you get the ability to fly around the map, and that then opens up a number of secret locations that you can see while exploring but you can't gain access to. So there's actually a lot to see and do. There's actually a hidden town with an almighty labyrinth that's one of the toughest locations in the game. It's certainly worth seeking out and doing that location. There's some really rare and good equipment there, but it's by far the hardest battle in the game as it's multiple levels and you have to go down through the various doors to try and find the various items. I seem to recall going through it multiple times to get all the treasure chests. So I'm going to wrap up the commentary very shortly. I hope you enjoy the rest of this video. Once we actually get to the top of the mountain, we get to speak to the wise man. He then tells you about recruiting the remaining characters, and that's when, as I said, the story really opens up. It is actually a really, really enjoyable game. If you haven't seen Mystaria, it's certainly one of the more reasonable tactical RPGs on the Saturn out there these days. Certainly a lot of the RPGs can be quite expensive, but Mystaria got an early release and was fairly heavily printed, so it probably costs around £20 at the moment still, so it's certainly one, if you like the gameplay, certainly worth picking up. Yes, the graphics don't look good, but the rest of the game is just really fantastic stuff. So all it's worth me saying is if you enjoyed this introductory video and you like RPGs, certainly worth picking up Mystaria Realms of Law. And please do like the video if you enjoy it. It does help with the rankings. And also please do subscribe to the channel if you like our content. The more subscribers, the more content we can produce. Thank you very much. I'm Random Gamer Riven.